So let's move to not a contrived API. Let's move to something simple. And this one actually doesn't have, it does have trend data, historical data, but I haven't paid for it. So this is Open Weather Map. Okay, and they have a couple APIs. So we're just going to get data out of a couple things. We're going to get current weather and forecast. So let's create another JSON interface. And I'm going to say install new JSON interface. Next. And let's call this one training weather. I'm not going to worry about all the defaults here. Let's go into training weather. Let's get rid of this stuff real quick. Let's just take a look at this as an open source. You can do this. Go find a lot of these things. There's earthquake data. There's tons of kind of public APIs for open pieces of data, and our interface will work with them. But this one is interesting because it's got some good Unixy timestamps in it. All right, so let's kind of get to a blank slate here. All right, so the Open Weather API. There's two methods we're going to look at here. Let's take a look at the current value, and we have forecast. So this is current. So basically the API has a URL, it has weather, and then it has a city. And this is the app ID is the token that when I signed up, they said use this to make your calls so we know it's you. So this is their security, is this with this app ID, and a lot of APIs will look like this. So this gives me the current value, and obviously I could change this from London to Paris. Again, I'm working on a browser. It's all great. It's raining in Paris. It's got temperature, pressure. I don't know. This is Kelvin or something. I'm not sure what this temperature is, but it's pretty hot there. 293 something. No units measure, so not the greatest. And then we can look at forecast. So forecast here again, and it's a 5-day forecast. There's no dates in here. It's not going to be historical. If I signed up for this API and paid money, then I could get that. But here you get a list, and again, it's interesting to note this is an array, and I get a bunch of data back here, 5-day forecast. So let's try to get data out of this. So again, kind of looking at the pattern here, so it looks like this has the word forecast instead of the word weather. So really probably our base address is going to be the first part of this. So I'm just going to take this first part and make this our base address. And now I want to start down the path here of getting the data out. So if we look at here, I'm going to grab this piece, the second half. Let's go into current value. And it looks like I got Paris in here in my API. So when I run this, it's going to combine this base address with the request URI to give me one URL back, and it's going to execute that and return the JSON. So if I do a test on that, and no parameters, parameters are stuck in here from my other thing. I haven't passed in any parameters, so it ignores them. So here's the modified URL, which is the same URL we just looked at, and it's returning a bunch of junk that we need to then figure out where's that piece of data that we want. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the data here. Let's scoot things over so we can see. Looks like the data here is under this main object, and we got temperature, pressure. So if I just go in here and say from the results, I want to look at main, and I can put the dot in here too if I want to, if I don't want to put it in the value field. And then I can put in, what do I want? Let's get out pressure. Let's get out temp. Okay, so we'll do temp. And this one here also has a timestamp, and the timestamp is, no, it doesn't have a timestamp. So we're going to ignore the timestamp on this particular piece, and what it's going to do is the system is going to say we'll use current time. So here I'm going to go through and I'm going to say take this hunk of data, and I'm going to ignore these two, and I'm going to say give me main.temp. And if I test this, I get back the temperature here in Paris. And of course, I don't just want Paris. So let's put a parameter in there, and let's test. And let's put in Paris to make sure I get the same thing back. Great. Let's test again and put in London, and there's London. And you know what? I want more than temp. So let's put in 1 in here. And now I want London temp, and that'll bring back my temperature. I can also say give me London pressure. what our atmospheric pressure is. I get back. So now I got a parameterized value on a public API pretty quickly, just by looking at the URL, figure out how we want to parameterize it, looking at the result JSON, and this is a little different than SQL. It's a different set of geekiness. You have to figure out, here's the object, it's all object.property, or sometimes there are arrays in the case of the trend. So I'm going to say okay for that, and for trend data, even though it's forecast data, not really trend data, let's go ahead and pretend it's history, and let's take a look at this guy here. So this is the forecast, same starting URL, except we got all this garbage at the end. So I'm going to say for trend data, let's put this in. Let's see what data we get back here. Let's put in London. I haven't actually parameterized this at all, so let's not even worry about parameters. And obviously I haven't told it any values. What I get back, it's returning the whole result set back. It's returning all this garbage back here. So it looks like, if I look at the data here, let's get this all over so I can see, it looks like the object that we need here is list, and list has a bunch of other sub-objects in this array. So let's start here with list, and it looks like if I do main.temperature inside of the list will be okay. So let's do main.temp. And the timestamp field here is not inside of main, but it's actually, and I know this because I've dealt with Unix times a lot. This little timestamp is, you'll see this a lot in APIs, it's a Unix-based timestamp. So what that is, it's a number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. And I don't know why they do that, but they do. And we can actually take that timestamp and convert it into something that, you know, human beings can understand. So our timestamp is inside a list, and it's just .dt. .dt. And if I do a test here, and again I haven't parameterized anything, now I'm going to get back the forecast, I don't know, 7 days, 5 days, a week, forecast here for London. Then again, I can start with my parameter, and you'll see here it's converted that Unix timestamp into a real human readable time. So let's do 0 here, and instead of temp, let's do 1. Okay, and apply. And I don't have any historical values. What I could do is I could just put in the current value and, you know, let the customer know, hey, there's no way to get history. This is just a demo. So let's just go ahead and pull this up here and take a look here at London. Let's do Paris. Temp. Let's go here and say London. 2 parameters, London. And it's lowercase. Java JSON is case sensitive, so you have to be careful with that. What do we call it? JSON. What did I call the interface? JSON training weather. It looks like it's update. Yeah, oh, there it is. JSON training weather. And here I will do Paris temp. Let's just preview just those guys. Care about those ones anymore. Let's preview, make sure we're getting back data, and we are. And I can then, oops, I can take these two, and the other thing was pressure. Same interface, pressure. Let's stick them on the home page. Let's make sure they work here. Yep, preview worked. I go home, refresh. And there I got current values, and there's not really a trend here. It looks like it's the trend will be in the future. We got a trend. I think maybe we'll. Yeah, looks like it's not very interesting. That's pressure. It goes up and down. Looks like it's not a very good trend of data. But it's future data anyway. I just really want to show you the interface works and gets data out. And, not a great example for trend, but you can see here we took a public API and got back history, got back the current value. Well, it's the same concept, right? I mean, you look at the URLs, figure out how am I going to parameterize it. You look at the resulting set of data, and I need to go list, .main, this is an array, so let's do my trend. Same concept. Once you guys do 1 or 2 of these, they'll be pretty simple to do. Sometimes they get more confusing. the SCOM stuff came back. It's a big report, so we had to really go through it. It was like the 50th item. We have some ways to do what's called JSON path in our interface, which you can look that up if you're familiar with XPath encoding. JSON has a library to do, find me the nth element where the name is this, so we can do that sort of stuff in the interface too, but that gets a little more complex, but there's quite a bit you can do here.
Christian?
If you guys find,
oh, yes.
If you guys find something you can't get to, or the interface doesn't work, let us know, and we'll see if we can get it to work in the interface.
And Christian, I just wanted to add, if you could go back to the designer really quick.
Yes.
Just a side note that, on each row here on these sets of KPIs, we've only referred to one data source, but you could very easily add the CPU from a server from this JSON interface to one of the KPIs, like a low interface or something, to one of them that is on the ODBC. It's getting its actual from the SQL database. Like you put it on Sawtooth, for example.
Well, here's server 1 CPU. I am getting back, let's see here, we got target on here. Yeah, getting back server 1 CPU. The target is actually the London pressure, and the CPU comes from that interface. So you combine these. We call this concept composite KPIs. So you have your limits, your lows, your mins, your highs, your max, your target, and your actual. They can all come from the same interface. They can be a mix of interface and constant values. You can do math on them, or you can combine from completely different systems to get back your data into one KPI.
And where you might see this is someone who's getting their actual values from like a real-time historian or from some machine data coming somewhere, and then some other group, maybe in the ERP system or somewhere else, is where they set the targets. And so you're getting your raw data from one place and going and getting a target or limits from some other source that it's not stored in the same place.